Music is so jazzy. Uh, okay, so we're going to work on building our EUI Flyout. We're going to wire up a button inside each one of those card elements, and when you click on it, it's going to open up the flyout with some details on the episode that you just clicked on. So it'll all be dynamic, and it's going to be pretty cool. I mean, as cool as a flyout with Flintstone episodes can be. But either way, let's do it. So make sure you've got your project running in your terminal, and we'll just take a quick look at where we left off, right? We've got these cards. We've got a button that says details that doesn't do anything yet. But what it will do is when you click on the details button, the flyout will come out and you'll be able to see what's going on. So to make this really easy on ourselves, I'm going to create a new file called source home, not hop, home. And we're going to call this episode flyout.tsx. And I'm going to come over here to the docs for EUI. And I'm going to, under layout, I'm going to click on flyout. I'm going to click on demo.js under this very first example. I'm going to expand this guy out. And then we're going to take a look at what's going on here. And we're going to copy a few things out of here. So the way these flyouts work, right, is a button, the flyout has state, right? Is the flyout open or not? And when you click that button toggles the state. So just switches it from true to false, right? Pretty simple. If the flyout is open, then the component renders a flyout component. If it's not open, then it renders just a simple button component, right? Actually, technically, it always renders the button component, and it only renders the flyout conditionally whether or not the flyout is visible. So as we look through this, we can see some of these things happening, right? We import useState up here. We import just some of the basic things we need from a flyout from EUI, and then we use state to define whether or not the flyout is visible. A lot of this stuff we can skip, or some of this stuff we can skip over, right? And then you'll see this let flyout with a semicolon. All that really does, for those of you unfamiliar with ES6 syntax, we have different variables, right? Like in the old school days of like jQuery, we would have just written like var flyout, right? It was a variable. We are able now to define constants and variables. So if something is defined as a const, it means it can never be reassigned, and you'll end up with errors. So if you say, like, my name is unchanging, right? Const name is Davey. You cannot change my name, right? But in this case, we say let flyout, and then we end up with a semicolon. It just means this is going to be a null value, but the variable exists. And the let allows us to change that thing later. So we do that down here inside this if statement, where we say if flyout is visible, this is our state object. So if the flyout is visible, then we reassign flyout to a React node of the flyout. And then in our final return statement, we simply just return a div, a single wrapping parent div with a button that always renders, and then that flyout. And again, this flyout will either be null or the React node based on the state object. So let's go ahead and put some of this stuff into our project. We might do some copy pasting, I don't know. But to start, we're going to import useState from React. We're also going to import a few of the things we need from EUI. So we're going to need an EUI Flyout. We're going to need an EUI Flyout header. We're going to need an EUI Flyout body. We'll need an EUI Flyout footer. We're going to need an EUI title. Maybe. I think. We'll pull it in to be safe. We'll need an EUI button. We'll need an EUI stat. Not state. EUI stat. And I think that's... Oh, and we'll need flex groups and flex items. So EUI flex group and EUI flex item. And all that will come from Elastic EUI. I really like these things to be alphabetically organized because I'm weird like that. So I'm going to sort those things to make it nice and tidy, but whatever. To each their own. Now that we've got some of that, we're just going to define our constant. So this will be our episode flyout, right? We'll do our react.fc, just standard stuff. And then we know that we're going to expect this to receive an episode, right? So we'll just plan for that. So we'll say I episode flyout props, and this will be equal to a function. And then for now, we'll just return a button, I think. EUI button, a button, EUI button, and it's going to say details on it. It's also going to be filled, and I think that should be okay. So a couple of things we have to do before we can view this in the browser is we need to deconstruct the episode, and we need to define an interface and import the episode type from our data file. So import episode from ./data, and then we'll define our interface, I episode flyout props, and this is going to be episode of episode type, like so. It'd help if I spelled interface right. And that should be good. We're not using interface const. We need to export this. So we'll say export const episode flyout, and that should be pretty good. That should get us at least off to the races, so that we can view this stuff in the browser. So let's go ahead and take this component now, this flyout component, and stick it inside of our single episode card. So inside our single episode file, instead of this button here, we're actually just going to render the episode flyout. So episode flyout, and it's going to expect an episode prop, right? Which will take the episode that we are mapping through currently. It's already available in this component. So when we do this now, oh wait, we need to import it. I don't know why I'm singing. It's the end of the day. I don't know. Import episode flyout. I can't type. From episode flyout. And now we should be good. So if we take a look at this in the browser, you'll see we have this details. Clicking on it still doesn't do anything, but this is coming from our episode flyout. So let's go make it do stuff. Head back over to our episode flyout, and just like we'd seen done in that example over here, right? We need to define the flyout, and we need to set some state. So I'm going to copy this state object, and I'm going to throw it in here, and then we'll just say let flyout, like so. And then we have this if function, right? So we say if flyout, or if is flyout visible, right? Then we're going to set flyout equal to some returned element, right? And that's so close to what we want. But we're going to write this stuff so that you all can write it with me. So I'm going to build a flyout. I'm going to say EUI Flyout. It's going to have an EUI Flyout header. It'll have an EUI Flyout body. It'll have an EUI Flyout footer. And that should be pretty good to go. I'm going to reference this doc again to see how we define. Our header just takes just some basic titling and that kind of thing. So we'll throw an EUI title in here with H2, or we'll call it an H1, and that'll contain the episode.title, like that. And we also are going to put in, not here, but adjacent to this, we're going to put in some EUI text, which will be a paragraph, almost that, but it's going to be our episode released Yeah, the released field. And I think that's going to be pretty good. Let's set our title size on this. EUI title size is going to be like small, I think is reasonable. And then, on close is missing from our flyout. So we can set that real quick on close. This is just going to be a function, and this will be pretty easy. We're just going to run a function, and we're going to call our set is flyout visible, and we're going to pass it a value of false, right? So when the flyout closes, it's going to set the flyout visible to false. And then let's go ahead and import our text so we can get rid of that error. So I think what we're off to, and let's throw a header on or a border on our title. And I think that's good. So if we take a look at this now, wait, we can't see it because our button does nothing. But up. This is like the one of me singing. But up is the new thing. Okay, so on this button, we need an on-click handler on this guy. So we'll say on-click equals, this is going to be set basically exactly like the on close, right? But this one's going to set it to true. And we need to wrap this stuff in a single container. So we'll take that, put it in there, and then we will return the flyout here, right? Like that. Now, if we look at this file, because we kind of jammed through that, we have our state management. We set flyout to basically null. And then if the flyout is visible, then we reassign flyout. And then we return our very final stuff. So we return just a container, and it's got a button. And then if the flyout is visible, it renders the flyout. So now when I click this, we're doing pretty good. We have the flagstones, a date, and we've got a header, and then nothing much else going on in there. But we can make some changes to all this, and they shouldn't take us very long. So I want to set the size on my flyout because I don't want it to be so stinking big. So I think small is reasonable. There we go. I also want to format that date because that's not very readable. So up here, we're going to use moment. I'm going to import moment from moment, and then we're going to use our moment to actually format the date. So here, we're going to replace this with moment episode.released, and then we're going to run the .format method on this. And you can read about the formatting options for moment, but essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to format this with month, day, comma, year. And that's going to give us the full month name, a single or double digit date, and then the full year. And then we see May 1st, 1960. And if we click a different one, we see October 7th, 1960. So that's doing pretty good. Maybe we want a spacer in between these two things. EUI spacer size equals medium, maybe. Seems reasonable. And then we'll import spacer up here. EUI spacer. And that'll give us just a little bit of breathing room between the title and the date. Whoa, too much breathing room. Whoa, let's make that small. Replace that spacer with a small size, and then that'll feel not much better. Did I save that? I did. Ugh. All right, extra small it is. That's better. Okay. Now we need an image. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and actually import EUI image. EFGHI. I never know my alphabet. I have to say it out loud. EUI image. And the image is going to take a source and an alt tag. And we're going to do all of this inside the flyout body, right? So inside of our flyout body, we're going to do EUI image. It's going to take, a size. And it takes an alt and a URL. I think it takes a source equals episode image. Alt is going to be episode.title. And I think that's pretty good. I think that's what we're looking for. Okay. And there we go. There's our image. Looking pretty good. Layout. Let's throw another spacer in here. EUI spacer. This one I do want to be kind of big. So we'll say LART. Throw that. Oh, and then underneath the spacer, I want to show those stats, right? So, is it listening to me? Oh gosh, EUI Flex. I'm actually going to write this stuff out. So, like Emmett, EUI Flex group. I'm going to have 3 EUI Flex items, and then each one of those is going to contain an EUI stat. And we'll start, actually they're going to take a title of episode. Does this work? I want to see if this works. Episode dot season number. That did work. It's beautiful. And then we need a description on them. So a description. So the way these stat items work is the title is the really big fat number, right? And then the description is the little description text above it. So our first one is going to say season, right? And these can actually be self-closing. We don't need them like that. So I'm going to do the same thing here and here. So it'll be description. The second one is going to be episode. Obviously, this will change to episode number. And the last one is going to be the IMDb rating. And the description is going to be rating. EUI Flex item. I did mean EUI Flex item. Oh yeah, EUI Flexed item. What is that, man? %s/. So I need to fix my spelling error. EUI Flexed item with EUI Flex item. Oh, and I need to close these tags. And I think once we have that now, we should be pretty good, right? We've got the image, we have a spacer, we've got a flex group of flex items in it to contain those stats. And there you have it. Season 1, episode 1, 7.2. And this stuff is all dynamic to the episode that we click on. So that's pretty cool. Now inside this body, let's throw in another EUI spacer, and we'll put in our, we will put in our, okay. There, we'll put in our spacer, and then we want some EUI text that's going to have the plot, which I can't get over. I just can't get over GitHub Copilot. It's seriously tripping me out, man. So I have EUI text with the full plot in there. And then our footer element, while we're here, we're going to put our button. We're going to put a button in here. So I'm going to say EUI button. And it's going to say watch now. It's going to have an icon type of play. And it's going to be filled. And it's also going to be full width. We want it to stretch. So the button elements, you can throw full width on them. And when you click this, would you look at that? We have a fully built flyout that's got a description. It's got some stat items. It's got an image. We're formatting a date. We've got a header. We've got a button where you can watch it. I mean, can you even believe it? I'm sure you can. But it's pretty neat, right? This is kind of the basics of building stuff with EUI. So if we take a look at just kind of where we were, or where we, what we achieved in this little session, right? We're using state and moment. We're importing all the stuff we need from EUI. It looks like we got the things we needed. We didn't import too much. We pull in that episode type from our data file. We specified our interface. We use that interface inside of our flyout. We deconstruct the episode. We set an initial state to false. We set flyout initially to just a null value, and then we change it based on whether or not the flyout is visible. And we just use that little block there to define what the flyout should look like. Right? We've got the flyout with a flyout header. It's got a title, some text with the date formatted. The body contains the image, a flex group of stats, the episode plot, and then in that footer we've got a full width button that says watch now. And then down there in our final return statement, we just have this simple little tag. And remember, these don't actually get rendered to the page. They're just a nice little way for us to contain multiple items inside of our JSX, so React doesn't get pissy. Yeah, and that's that. So, I don't know, print it out, put it on your fridge, email it to your mom, be proud of your work, because that's what you've got. So, until next time.